What's up, YouTube? I got a PM from one of my female listeners, and she talked about how her fiance is on point, okay, has his shit together, is working, productive, and all that other good stuff, but he comes from a shaky family. Whereas she's coming from a family who, relatively speaking, has their affairs together. And already in the time that they've been together, they've had issues not even relating to them per se, but with the family. And she doesn't want to get herself into a situation where she's having marital or relationship problems, and honestly it's not even with the actual husband or boyfriend, it's with the family and how the family's being dealt with. So she just wanted my take on the whole situation of being with somebody who is great, they're doing everything that you want them to do, but the fam isn't where you feel like it needs to be, and they're definitely causing problems because they don't have their affairs together. And we all have this problem, okay? I don't care who you are. If you're African, you know that you have some aunt or uncle that calls usually late at night because of the time difference. So it's like 1, and you hear your mom or dad yelling at 12 or 1 in the morning because your uncle from Nigeria called and he needs money, or the aunt needs money for this. We all have it. It's something that everybody has. But how do you deal with it in terms of it not being your family, right? So you're with somebody, your family's okay, but their family isn't. So how do you deal with it? Well, first of all, I think you have to look at 3 areas. First area, how well does your partner accept the fact that, the family isn't on point? Because I've seen people who are completely different from their family in terms of the lifestyle that they chose, and the family didn't, but they don't want to acknowledge it. So he's doing A, they're doing Z, and Z is clearly not productive, but because it's family, they don't want to look at it as a problem. They want to look at it as, it's just what my family does, as opposed to not looking at it as a problem. Whereas somebody who knows, I love my family to death, but my family has some problems. So there's a difference. So you have to make sure that, the person that you're with is aware that their family has some problems, and it's not something that they should just write off and be defensive about, because no one is saying that you should leave your family and X them out of the picture. But if they have issues and problems, you have to understand that, right? Because then it turns into you're just hating on my family, but it's really not somebody trying to hate, it's just somebody being honest. So you have to look at that. You have to ask yourself, does he or she accept the fact that they're on point, but some people in their family aren't? Because the worst thing is to deal with somebody who is cool in terms of what you're looking for, but they're sitting there dealing with the family, and the family has some problems, and they don't want to look at it as a problem. And they're looking at you crazy as if there's something wrong. You can't do that. It's just not going to work. I'm sorry, it's not going to work. Second area, look at location. How close are they to you? And mind you, when I'm done, all the things that I'm talking about, they all go together, okay? They're not necessarily separate. They all kind of lead into each other. But as far as the second one, how close are you guys? You can honestly have a good family, But if you're close to that family in terms of where you guys live, there may be issues because everybody's so close. And all of a sudden people get too comfortable, or, they're dropping their kids off, and, you never said that you were going to be home or babysit. You've seen it happen, okay? At one point in time, all my uncles lived within 20 minutes of each other. Now they're spread out because there was issues. And mind you, everybody was on point, but because everybody lived together, then there were some issues. Somebody's wife said this, or somebody said that, and no one wanted to deal with each other directly. So then there was talking about behind this back and that back, and there was a barbecue, but I wasn't invited. And like I said, everybody was on point. But because people live so close, there's going to be issues. And on the flip side, seeing people who don't necessarily have the best of families, but because they were spread out in terms of geographic location, maybe by a state or a plane ride, it wasn't that much of an issue because they just weren't dealing with each other, okay? It's easy to make yourself unavailable, or be real short, or how much trouble can you get into if I'm just seeing you once a year or twice a year for a couple of days, right? But you have to look at geographic location, because if the family's not on point, but they live far away, you can kind of monitor that situation a little bit easier. You don't have to be as, what are we going to do? Because they're just not around, okay? But yeah, if they're close by, you definitely have to really consider, hey, what's going on? Look how close they live. Not only do they have problems, but they can show up at my house at any time, right? Or if they get kicked out, who are they going to come to? Oh, can I sleep here? And that's all the stuff that you have to deal with. Lastly, and this kind of ties the previous 2 points together, is the person allowing you to weigh in on what's going on. Does he or she work as a team? Because oftentimes people will be defensive. Oh, it's my family, right? Somebody's brother needs to get bailed out. All of a sudden, he or she doesn't consult the significant other, but she's taking their money, or his money, or her money, right? And at that point, it's like, we're a team. You can't take the team money and make a individual choice. You can't get defensive. And that's what happens when you choose to, marry somebody. Your family becomes their family. Everything included. So people can laugh together, but if somebody has to get cussed out, guess what? You can do that. It is what it is. So you have to understand that there has to be a team. If that person is hesitant to have you weigh in, and she wants to kind of keep it on some, or he or she wants to keep it on some, it's my family, you can't say anything, it's probably not going to work, right? Because I know for myself, I'm not going to accept the whole idea of, you're going to be taking our resources, whether it's time or money, and give it to somebody else without me having my hand in it, without me putting my input on it, right? Putting my stamp on it. It's just not going to work that way. I have 2 boys that recently got married, and the women that they got married to, they don't come from the best of families, okay? But like I said before, both of the wives know that, so it's not like I don't see it. And B, both families kind of live close. Well, no, one lives close, the other one no, right? And C, which is probably the most important, both wives allow the husbands to weigh in. So there is no, it's my family, you can't include yourself. No, it's together, right? And that's a great situation, because my boys, shared with me their issues prior to get married. Damn, she doesn't come from the best of families, what should I do? But after some time, they talked about it, and they were able to chime in, right? So if there was an issue, the wives knew, I have to see what my husband says. I'm just not going to do it because I'm your sister, right? No, my husband has to weigh in on it, okay? Or you have to ask my husband. And that's how they dealt with it, that whole team sort of aspect. Because you want your hand in it, you know? You don't want people to be using you. It's not about not helping, but giving you money isn't necessarily helping. If you need help with the rent, yeah, you know, we'll get you the money, but it's why? You know, how come you were short? And what are you going to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again? You know, you're not going to keep coming to, you know, us asking for money, but you're not trying to fix up your own situation on your own end. So, you know, hopefully that makes sense to everybody. You know, I don't recommend that you just give somebody the axe because their family isn't the best, but there's certain things that have to happen. So it's one of those things where it's not a yes, it's not a no, it's a maybe. Maybe if A, B, and C are met. So that's my vid. Y'all take it easy. God bless.